What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I'm going to be talking about the one and only NIO stock and what you should be looking after for the future. I'm also going to break down what's going on with the overall market and how this may affect NIO, what's going on with the data affecting NIO and NIO's earnings, and how this may affect the share price moving forward as NIO has a potentially bullish setup that is developing. Before I break anything down about what's going on with NIO, before I talk about what's happening with the market right now, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I am not a financial planner. Make sure you take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire community as a whole. And the last thing is, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link down below in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you're guaranteed up to 10 free stocks. And any could be a free Tesla or NIO share. The offer ends in just 8 days. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. Alright guys, so in my previous video I warned you guys that I wasn't too confident about how this would end up playing out for NIO because of the fact that I anticipated some downside for SPY and also for the QQQ, and that was based off some technical readings. Now, the market got a nice pop in the morning thanks to the anticipation of Apple's event and Apple pumping very hard approaching it. But then Apple got rug pulled, and we saw a buy the rumors, sell the news kind of events play out. After Apple got the rug pull, SPY came down to 427 to actually hit the 426s, and we saw QQQ come all the way down to 354. As a result, the market slowed down. NIO pumped all the way up to almost $8. I warned you guys that NIO might try to get a small pump, and I thought NIO would cool off as time would go on, and we might see some sideways price action. Instead, NIO did better than I expected in my previous video. It held up and is up 1.46%. What else is worth noting is there's a possible inverse head and shoulders that's forming right here, and we might start to see NIO push to the upside approaching its earnings. I also want to add this because NIO had this bullish divergence where the head was, and NIO is holding up quite nicely. We have a nice uptrend on the 4-hour time frame, and NIO is gaining some relative strength. Now, remember last week when NIO was just underperforming for most of the days? NIO was just very weak. It hit $7, especially after a relatively weak deliveries report. I know it's unfortunate for me to say that, but it is the truth. However, NIO still has a lot of potential for the long term, so I'm not losing faith in the company as a whole, of course. I'm just noting that their latest deliveries are not the best. However, I'm still very, very optimistic for their future, and I want to see what guidance tells us for this earnings. But here's the thing. Then NIO tried to get like a gap up, a really nice bounce after this inverse head and shoulders form. It got that bounce, then it came right back down, still showing some weakness. And now it's starting to show some strength. The technicals are starting to switch. I have a bullish confirmation that's starting to confirm with this bullish divergence that was developing down here. So now let's break down some data coming out and whether or not this head and shoulders, or I'm sorry, this inverse head and shoulders for NIO is going to play out to help this thing pump well above $8. Now, to start us off, please be well aware that we have the Economic Optimism Index report coming out tomorrow at 10 o'clock a.m. Expect lots of volatility because this will give us a good insight on the outlook of many investors and Americans moving forward. That's very important. Expect lots of volatility at the time. For earnings for tomorrow, we have Dave & Buster's and a couple of others. We have GME on Wednesday, and then for Friday, we have NIO's earnings before the market opens. Expect lots of volatility because of that. Apple came out with their event today. Apple pumped really hard approaching the event. It was doing so well. And then, as I said before, this could be a buy the rumors, sell the news kind of event. They announced their new headsets, their new products that were coming out, new updates, and many other things like that. Especially their a new VR headset. I think it's really, really awesome. Very awesome for the company. But always remember, they were expecting this, and there was a lot of profit taking right after. So because of the typical trend of Apple selling off after the big events, Apple sold off, the market tanked because of that. I'm going to break down the charts in just a few minutes. Now, some articles are coming out and they're talking about NIO's guidance. They said NIO did not have the best, whoopsie daisies, I don't know what just happened here. They said NIO did not have the best overall deliveries, but guidance is going to be very important. They are expecting some very, very good announcements for earnings. They did mention that some analysts are expecting not the best earnings alone, but there is potential for them to continue pumping later on. So we'll have to wait and see on that. NIO's price ratio is very low. When it's low like this, we tend to see NIO trying to outperform the market a bit because it's very, very oversold and wants to get a bounce and wants to improve at least to some degree typically when that happens as buyers step in. Tuesdays tend to be strong days for NIO, 55% of the time almost per green. And finally, we tend to do very well during the 4th hour of the trading day, also during the 2nd hour. So make sure you watch these hours very carefully. And finally, despite the high short interest with almost 16 million NIO shares shorted, NIO still has some strength because with all of the shorting that was going on the stock price, we could still see it pump on lower volume thanks to some shorts covering if this thing starts to show some strength and trigger lots of stops. Now, NIO has 43 million in volume, a little bit below average, so not the strongest, but it managed to close green because we likely saw some short covering. On top of that, NIO had a very high short volume relative to price. A lot of shorting was going on NIO, hoping for that change, especially moving forward. So for the market, the technicals aren't looking that great for the market in terms of the price action, at least in favor of like the bulls or the bears. For the bulls, it's not looking that great because we have a potential bearish cross in the 4-hour time frame, and SPY is still quite overbought. And we formed a bearish divergence on SPY on the smaller time frames, which are getting very close to playing out. Let me just add that we have this next very important level coming out. So if SPY continues to break down, we could see this area get retested. But let me first note that we have to be looking at the 30 minutes 50 EMA, which is acting as support. We could try to bounce off this temporarily before continuing to drop. If it does break below it, we could see 425 or lower very soon. But we need some confirmation first. The odds favor either this thing chops around a bit before it starts downtrending, or we just continue to downtrend. As for Tesla, it's not looking that great. I mean, 30-minute looks bearish. The 4 hour is looking kind of bearish too. Like if you look at the 4-hour time frame, we're about to get a bearish cross on the PPO, and it is overbought. So that tells me that Tesla may start to see some signs of weakness. It's in this chop zone between this 216.5 to about 217.8 zone. It's going to likely chop around for a little bit before it starts downtrending. There is a bearish divergence that's starting to show signs of confirmation. There's a high probability, in my opinion, that sometime this week before Friday, Tesla comes all the way down to 209 to 210. You may think I'm crazy, but there's this imbalance right here that's going to act as a magnet when it finally starts downtrending. But first, watch 214 on Tesla. Anyways, for the QQQ, it got another rejection, and we have this bearish divergence, so it's likely going to cool off a little bit more. We may see the QQQ approach 353 very, very soon. We also have an imbalance zone all the way down here at 347. If it fails to hold 353, it's going to test 350, the 349 to 350 zone. If that fails, make sure you watch this 346.5 to 347 area. In my opinion, it could be forming like this giant head and shoulders. Maybe we see some choppy price action tomorrow before it starts downtrending. But the odds are favoring that there's going to be moves to the downside this week, especially getting closer to like Friday. I'm going to be watching 350 on the QQQ. Now, all of this may slow NIO down a little bit, but NIO is gaining some relative strength. NIO is still green and still hovering above 7.5 quite nicely. Let me also add that NIO has a clean looking potential inverse head and shoulders like formation after this bullish divergence formed, right? We had it right here, and we're also forming like a larger one. There's a good chance that NIO is going to make its way up again to $8 plus as we approach earnings, and I think the odds greatly favor in trying to uptrend. It could remain a little choppy tomorrow because of how the market responds, but it's getting tighter, and there's a good chance NIO might get a breakout very soon. The RSI is gaining strength, and to add on to that, on the 4-hour time frame, there's no sign of much weakness on NIO. It's continuing to get stronger. So let me just note that if we're bearish on NIO, it could get a retest of 7.5 and then potentially 7.3. But I'm leaning direction that if it does test like 7.5, it's going to try to hold it, and it's going to try to hold and push to the upside. If you're bullish on NIO, watch it test 7.76. If that breaks, $8 is going to come. If that breaks, 8.24 to 8.25, where the 200 EMA is on the 4-hour time frame is what I'm going to be watching. I'm predicting, though, that NIO is going to have some sideways price action, but then later on, either as soon as tomorrow or a little bit later, NIO is going to make its way up to the 8s. It's going to try to rebound because we have this inverse head and shoulders. We're gaining strength off the bullish divergence, and we're approaching earnings, and NIO looks like it's gaining some relative strength approaching earnings on Friday. So I think there's a good chance NIO might try to uptrend, make its way closer to at least the mid to high 8s as we approach earnings. And we have this inverse head and shoulders, which is gaining more and more confirmation as time goes on. So there's a good chance as we approach Friday, NIO is going to try pushing higher and make its way all the way up to 8 plus. That's what I'm leaning towards. I think by tomorrow, there's a good chance it's going to be testing 7.76. If that breaks, we could see it get closer to $8 very soon. It's starting to look more bullish to me like it's going to outperform the market, at least to some degree. The market may slow NIO down to some degree here and there, maybe stop it from running extremely hard, but I believe overall it's going to still uptrend despite that and gain some relative strength. That is my view on NIO. I'm leaning more bullish, but make sure you watch 7.5 as support just in case. All right? So that's what I have for this video. I'm leaning more bullish for the time being approaching earnings, and we'll just have to wait and see what guidance tells us. NIO's deliveries were not the best, but guidance could be key. If the CEO, William Lee Bin, keeps telling us that don't worry about these low deliveries, the second half is going to be stronger, we're going to get stronger deliveries, and he gives us more like very bullish announcements, NIO could still go flying up. It's still very possible. Just wanted to note that. Anyways, guys, I have some merch for you guys if you're interested in buying anything. If you want to buy a shirt that's just by the dip, we have options, eat, sleep, trade, repeat to the moon. It's really your choice. I would really appreciate it if you guys did check it out. And let me just also add, I have the Moomoo link. The offer ends very soon. Put in $100 and you're guaranteed up to 10 free stocks. All right, guys, thank you for listening. Have an absolutely spectacular rest of the day. NIO to the moon alongside that overall market. And peace out.